Hello, Heathens.
Hello, Heathens.
Hello, friends. We're back.
It's very heatheny out there.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's very heathen out there.
It's a new song.
Yeah, coming out this January.
Oh, it's gonna be a while.
And I mean never.
Yeah, actually, probably never.
Actually, probably never.
God, it's been so freaking nice out. We've been getting cool days, cool mornings with hot afternoons back into cool nights. And I have to say, I am obsessed with the weather right now.
It is very nice. It is very nice. I am a fair weather fan, although I do like the storms that have been happening. I'm very happy about them.
Me too. Me too.
The rain, I like have to restrain myself to going out there and being like, oh.
You're just laying out in the back in the mud, like, oh, this is so nice.
I'm about this close to be like super weird person and being like, it's fine, I'm fine in the rain.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I'm like, I'm cleansing, shut up.
Leave me alone. I'm cleansing.
I know I'm wet.
I like it. It's like I always go outside barefoot, and we have a garden right now, and I don't wear gloves in my garden. I don't wear shoes. I walk outside barefoot all the time. And
Hmm.
Jordan the other day was like, "Don't you think you should like take your ring off when you're working in the garden?" I was like, "No, everything is getting cleansed by the earth.
Absolutely.
I am a dirty mess and I like it."
Like, no, sir.
I will not put nothing on. I like the feeling of the dirt. Dirt feels nice.
You're just gonna start doing it naked.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
There are a lot of people that do naked gardening.
I definitely would if I wasn't in an apartment, you
What?
know?
That's weird. You should just do it.
Yeah.
Start a movement.
Yeah. Good. Good. You know how they always say there's one naked neighbor? It's probably
You're,
me.
it's probably you. It's probably you.
You looked in my apartment, man. Don't look in here. You
It's
know?
my space.
It's my space. You don't have to look in here.
Don't be nosy.
Yeah. It's comfortable. I mean, you know, if we're going by not technical terms, but if we want to say it, I mean, Adam and Eve kind of fucked it up for us.
Well, it's just Eve. We know it.
Yeah, yeah, it was all Eve's fault. Everything's
All
her
Eve's
fault.
fault.
Oh. Okay, peeps. So today we're talking about egregores. I think we've kind of mentioned it on the podcast before because, like, I don't know, it's a very vast concept, right? We could go many ways with this, like most topics we bring up. But today we're gonna do like an intro to egregores, like what they are and like what they look like and like what they do, what they can't do. All those kinds of things. So who, what, where, when, why.
Well, we're gonna do our best to describe all that because it is a very esoteric kind of idea. And because it has no real boundaries or shape or particular, like it literally is what you create
Yes.
or a group of you create. It's really hard to like nail down.
Yeah, it's not like looking at a flower and being like, oh, that's a poppy or oh, that's a tulip. It's it's nothing like that.
No.
Um, so we're gonna start out with a reading from H.P. Lovecraft because it's a good way for us to think. We'll break it down because there's a lot of big words. He uses big words. He's smart, very smart person. Didn't go to school all his life and still very smart person.
Oh yeah, he was considered. I didn't realize, but he was considered somewhat. And we're gonna go on H.P. Lovecraft, not until December, but we're gonna dedicate some time to H.P. Lovecraft. Now, please forgive me, but this is because there's some big words in here.
Big words, man.
Now, all the tales, I'm sorry. Now, all of my tales are based on a fundamental premise that command human laws and interest and emotions have no validity
Validity.
and significance in the vast cosmos at large. To me, there is nothing but what was it?
Virility.
Puerility in a tale in which the human form and the local human passion and conditions and standards are depicted as a native to other worlds and universes. To achieve the essence of a real externally, whether of time or space or dimension, one forgets that such things as organic life, good or evil, love or hate, and all such local attributes of a neglectable and temporary race called mankind have any existence at all. Only human sense and characteristics must have human qualities. These must be handled with a unsparingly realism, not catch penny romanticism. But when we cross the line into the boundless and hideous unknown, the shadows haunted outside, we must remember to leave our humanity and our
Terrestrialism.
terrestrialism
There you go.
at the threshold. We must remember to leave our humanity and our terrestrialism at the threshold.
Yes, were there words we had to look up to know how to pronounce and what they were? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, guys. Like dyslexia, okay?
And apparently, I am Nemo.
Yeah,
It's fine.
same. The way that puerility, I wanted to say puerility.
Perility. I wanted to
Yeah,
put 3 D's and an L somewhere where it wasn't in.
and a T. Throw a T in there too, and then we got the right word.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're gonna make up our own language.
Yes. So basically, what H.P. Lovecraft is getting at, okay, it was a beautifully written way of saying it because, like, I couldn't come up with that, is that when it comes to crossing the line and the boundaries of the unknown, right? You're crossing past this earthly world. You're talking about things outside of what we know, we can feel, we can touch, we can taste. You have to leave all your humanity at the door because being a human, we follow rules like what love is, what hate is, what good, what evil is. We follow rules. We have these man-made concepts that we follow. That's being a human. That's your, like he said, where's the word? Terrestrialism. You are
Terrestrialism.
existing as a human. When we're talking about things that are not human, you have to leave that all at the door. And to not do that, puerility is basically saying it's childlike. It's childlike not to. It's childlike to think that is subjects such as what we're talking about today, which is egregores, we can hold those accountable to the same laws and rules that we try to hold ourselves accountable to.
Absolutely. It's that whole thing of like a stink doesn't bite you because he hates you,
Yes.
right? You can't put on him loyalty or love. You can't put on hate. You can't project these human qualities or these human rules of society onto animals. Animals are a very good way of like, yes, you can train a dog to act a particular way, but they still don't understand why they're doing it.
Right. And they're still going to act out of instinct sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so it's like that is a beautiful way to describe it too. You can't hold animals accountable to human laws. Love, hate, good, evil, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong, all those things. You can't hold beings, such as egregores, to the same laws. So we wanted to read that to you. Nicole found that. I think it's a beautiful statement because it's a good way to, it's a good thing to keep in mind when we're talking about egregores today.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful way of saying it. I mean, lots of big words.
Right. I was like, the only thing that captured was the last thing that I was like, when I read it, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. But the last like 4 or 5 words, leaving your humanity at the threshold, was really what opened my mind up, or really what like anchored me to that. And not only in like egregores, but like almost anything that we talk about in esoteric kind of thought and theory, is sometimes you have to step out of humanity to really understand something. And a lot of people are not comfortable with that and they don't get it then.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I've never thought about it like that. I'm glad you found that passage and we're sharing it because I hadn't thought about that either because I feel like most of the time that's what we do. That's why we can hold so much space for things in the way of like, sure, that could be real. Like, yeah, I don't know. Sure. Yeah, like so everything's written in pencil because there's this beauty in not knowing, but like also kind of believing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But that's a great way of saying it. You just sometimes you can't explain the unexplainable. We're not
Right.
meant to know.
Or you can explain it at what your capacity is, you know. And again, it goes back to like, oh, as a child, I thought this is what that was. And as you grew up and matured and knew a little bit more of the world, then you're like, oh, that's so silly. It's so childlike to think this way because now I have a whole understanding of what it actually is.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so in 1859, Victor Hughes was the first one to reference egregores in the book of Legend of the Ages. Now, I don't know what that book is. Do you by chance
No,
know what that
it
book
was
is?
it was referenced. So basically a lot of the stuff that we're getting right now is from a book called Egregores. Hold please. I'm gonna get the cover. Come on. Okay.
Shamo.
So this is the cover, or this is the book that we're getting most of the references from. It's by Mark Stavish. It's a smaller book. It was about 4 hours on Audible,
Mhm.
or you can get it if you've paid for your um Spotify, it's on Spotify for free. Um But if you want an overhaul of what egregores are, you might have to read it. I'll have to read it 3 times, but it gives
Yeah.
you kind of a loose description. And he references so many books in there that I kind of wanted to find like, I want to make a list of the books that he's referencing just so I can like have those on hand.
Yeah. Yeah, Mark Stavish is a very intellectually smart person. He uses a lot of big words. So that's why I'm definitely gonna have to listen to it more than once or twice because some of the words I'm like driving and I'm like, I have no idea what that means. I don't even know what we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about right now because I'm stuck on that word.
Right. You're
I
like,
can't
wait,
look it up
what?
because I'm driving.
Fuck, I don't even think I like listen. I think I just forgot them because I just was like, my brain didn't even be like, nope, out.
It said did not compute. Next. Your brain said, we're gonna skip over that word. We don't even know what that means. Keep listening to the rest of the words that you know what they mean.
Right, right. Because the book was very fascinating. It talks about pulp culture, it talks about government, and it talks about there's a whole thing on H.P. Lovecraft. So it was very fascinating to kind of visualize what an egregore could be and put it into terms that we already know.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
Hmm.
Okay, so the word egregore originates from a Latin word meaning wakeful. And the concept of egregores is used to describe the thought form that is created when people come together with a common interest and focus all their energy on it. So these thought forms are usually made up of thoughts, ideas, feelings that the group sends out through their collective group mind or collective consciousness. Now, this can happen subconsciously or consciously. It can happen like with knowledge of doing it or without knowledge of doing it. But egregores are pretty powerful and they have sorry. They have the power to shape our thoughts, beliefs, and actions in ways that we're not even aware of. So the whole point of talking about egregores today is to learn what they are and then to learn how we either need to get away from some or work with some. So having the knowledge that an egregore is a thought form that's made up of feelings, thoughts, and beliefs all put into one being. It's like, we talk about sending out energy all the time, right? Like you send out a spell, you forget it. Like that's why you do your lesser banishing is so you have all this stuff that doesn't go with it, right? When you're just sending out thoughts and you guys say like we're in a group of 5 people even and we're all talking about the same thing, we're constantly talking about it, where do you think that energy goes?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't just go nowhere. That's what an egregore is. It's the collection of all of this stuff together. So, like a good example that Nicole gave me years ago now that I've never forgotten about because now every time I see it, I'm like, oh, it's fucking egregore. McDonald's. McDonald's is a great. It's the easiest way to describe what an egregore is. You see it everywhere, everywhere. Commercials, ads. There's the little. What if I say what's the golden arches? Immediately your mind goes to the M in McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
All of that energy feeds the McDonald's egregore.
Well, then not only that, as soon as you see it, you automatically start getting hungry. You want, French fries. We all know about their addiction to like Coca-Cola and Diet Coke. We've talked to
Yep.
many people about like, like, oh, I just want a McDonald's Coke. That's what I need to like settle my stomach or whatever. Like it automatically it's like that whole like training a dog, right? Like you literally start to salivate as soon as you hear the bell, like that law, right?
Yep.
And it's very fascinating. And the why it's so important to know that these are influencing you is so that you can actually think about why are you acting this way and why do you want to act this way? Is it you? Is it an external force? Like, what is it that makes you want to do this?
Mm-hmm.
And so that you can become more of your own, like, being and more authentic. And it gives you these boundaries of like whether, like, yeah, I am hungry, I'm going to eat, or no, I don't want to. Like, you're more governing of your own self instead of being like in the tides.
Yeah, just getting pushed around.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a great way of saying that. So like McDonald's is neither good nor bad, right? In my head, we all know that it's not the best food for you. It's probably not even close to the best food for you, like by a long shot. But that's neither here nor there. In my head, McDonald's is neither bad nor good for me. Now, if you agree with that, that's totally fine. You're gov governor to yourself. I respect it. But like usually egregores aren't either good or evil. They're not bad and wrong, and they're not good or evil, and they're more often just indifferent to human concern. Because again, like H.P. Lovecraft was talking about when we were talking about this type of thing, got to take the humanity out of it, got to take the human laws out of it, right? So they represent the totality of a psychic's life, like a psychic life. So psychic meaning out of body life. So it's usually whoever created it, that's the unconscious or like their conscious stream of thought is collected into that. And sometimes they're created without our knowledge even.
Well, a lot of times they're great. Well, a lot of the advertisements and the the marketing world is all about psyche and thought forms. Like they, you know, McDonald's has a certain goal,
Right.
right? Like, and right now it'd be less on creating good food and good people and more on profit sharings and stuff like that.
Consumption.
Yeah, like it's more about um raising that almighty profit margin, right? Like or that profit sharing, making people happy or whatever. Capitalism.
Capitalism, there it is. That's the word I wanted to.
So that's the thing is like you can choose to be part of it, you can choose not to be part of it. It's really when you detach from it, it's really up to you what you want to do with your life. And it's funny because when you first kind of like get to this place of like, oh my God, I've been fooled all my life, and you want to tell the world and you want to stand on a street corner and like the end is nigh, like you end up being this crazy person that's trying to sway people to your thought because you found this newfound freedom, and that necessarily not everybody wants to be awake. Not everybody wants to know. They are ignorance is bliss, as we know. And some people just want to stay there, and that's okay.
Yes.
You have to do you, and you have to uh you can't save the world as much as we think we can.
Yeah, for real. Wish we could.
Hmm.
So egregores continue to stay sustained through that continued attention and engagement from group of peoples, right? So like another good example of like really good sustained egregore is Christmas.
Hmm.
And we can look at,
Santa Claus.
yeah, we can look at how
Uh-huh.
Christmas has also evolved. So egregores can evolve, right? They can grow. And I would love for you to explain how this kind of happens to where they can like evolve into something bigger and take on their own form. Because like Christmas wasn't always about gifts and consumerism. It wasn't about consuming and capitalism and buying, buying, buying. And if you don't buy enough, you're not good enough. You didn't do good enough. You don't love
Right,
people
right.
enough because you have to get presents for people for Christmas,
Hmm.
right? It was about being together and celebrating, you know. I guess there's many different reasons because truly Christmas came because of Jesus and because of the Bible, and it was supposed to be a day to celebrate Jesus's birth. And then it turned into celebrations around family. Everybody gets together, we eat together, we hang out together, and now I feel like it's very much based on consumerism.
Right. Um Well, even if we start back with the pagans and starting with like the winter solstice, how Christianity had adopted that or changed that, or maybe they even like, and I don't know if this is possible, maybe they even tried to kill off the one egregore to make theirs
Mm,
stronger, right?
yeah.
Because they really tried to get rid of paganism or what's the other druidism. They really tried to get rid of that thought form because they wanted Christianity to be the ruler, or the most powerful entity out there. And really they did a really good job, because if you think about it, there's a lot of stuff that we do that Christianity, you don't have to be religious at this point in time to follow rules set by Christianity.
Right.
Um, and think about that for a minute, because there's a lot of stuff that we do that is morality based in Christianity that doesn't necessarily make it true or better or anything like that. And this starts a lot of like arguments and wars and distractions to get you off your path, because you want to be right, you know.
Yep. Preach it, sis.
Um, where were we going?
You were preaching, man. That's where we were at. You were preaching and I loved it.
Ugh,
Because that is a good,
I forgot where we were going.
before I go back to where we were going, what I would like to say is that that is a good thought to critically think about. When it comes to topics like this, critical thinking is absolutely essential. You have to figure out how you feel about things, why you feel the way about things. And that's exactly why we're talking about egregores too, is because critical thinking comes in when one is influencing you. And what you just said was very thought provoking. And I hope that if like any of that was like, you start thinking about it. But what we're talking
Hmm.
about is how egregores can take shape over time. They can change their goal essentially of like what their mission, I guess, quote unquote, is of why they're here, right? So like how
Well,
they're
yeah.
birthed and then they change and then they take their own entity.
So just like a child, if we think about a child being created and then born, and then we're shaping its like thoughts and life and blah blah blah, and then eventually it becomes a ruly teenager, and then it's an adult and it goes off on its own, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is why we program our children at a young age, and then we keep programming them in elementary, middle school, high school, and then ultimately university and all that kind of stuff. That's why they would take like the prophets and wizards, or what is um what were they called? What was like the people that were thinking philosophers?
Mm.
They would take these young people and they would like, okay, they were showing aptitude for this, so they would bring them and teach them and immerse them into the philosophies, so that by the time that they grew up they could actually like evolve the thought form, and they could evolve the thought processes of how we think and feel and all that, and the meaning of life and stuff like that. um and we can also see this where like we um just the evolution in humanity on itself. So we've come if you want to, take the theory of like we talked, or we come from cavemen, and then we like evolved and we went out of caves and we built houses and we started to educate and write stuff down, and evolved from that, where we have machines and then we have computers and then we have like, you can see the evolution of it. um Thought forms are no different. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that you have to take away the physical form. And like if I'm going to create a thought form about something, like I guess technically with my limited understanding of it, I would gather people around and I would say, hey, we need to focus on these words. And we're going to sit here and meditate for 10 to 20 minutes on just this word. And we would do this again and again and again. And then eventually we would have actually, what a great show that we watched, what or documentary was, The Bell Witch of Tennessee.
Mm.
I believe that was an egregore.
Mm-hmm.
It started out with taps on the wall, and then it started out with like moving things, and then it started out with like one word things, and then it started out with sentences, and then eventually it was a full-blown apparition,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That was the involvement, because not only did people come from miles around to see it or witness it or experience it, so that was just feeding it more.
Yep.
And it's a loose, it's one way of doing it for sure.
Yeah.
Because we even can look into like wars. Wars are just entities that are fighting each other, or egregores that are fighting each other.
Yes. I think another good example of that what could be turning into a whole entity that people are fighting or fighting to keep is TikTok.
Well, absolutely. So you have the entity of the government, and then you have the entity of TikTok, which is really in its infancy, maybe, maybe pre-adolescent or something, because it's only been, but it could have grew fast because of how many people are on it and how much information is being fed. And
Fed.
I think that's what the government is really upset about because it's really, we talk about TikTok University all the time, and I feel like that's what they want to shut down is they want to shut down the information flow. It's it's really humanity teaching humanity, and the government is losing control of the people, of the minds of the people. So because if we think about it, um we are losing the baby boomers, which were the most programmable people that we had. And I don't mean that in a bad way or a slight way. It's just an observation, and it may hurt just because I'm not using like the words I probably cushiony words.
I was just gonna
Um,
say cushiony words.
right,
Yes.
right. So if we look at that, and if we look at the government, and they're losing that control over people, and people are becoming more feral or less controllable. Like think about the workforce right now is, I've heard a lot of people go, well, people won't work. Well, that's because we've been taught that we had to work 40 hours plus, like especially Generation X. We had to be better than the baby boomers. So of course we had to like work 40 hours plus just to be like, haha, we are better. And we created people that missed their parents, missed things that were very important to them. So now we have Generation X, what's the next one? Millennials.
Hmm.
Now we have these people that realize that they have grown up in this kind of way, and they're like, this isn't making me feel good, and I don't like it, and it makes me very anxious, and blah blah blah. These are the fruits of our labors, right? So we realize that the fruit's not good. It's not coming out well. So we have gone to the point where we now have these people that are like, I don't need so much money to live because I'm not trying to be a millionaire. I'm just trying to exist. And I don't want to wait until I'm 65 to travel around the world or to experience the world or even like have peace. So we find this mindset that it's starting to shift where they're not feeding the capitalism anymore, and they're losing. I think this is why we have this whole what is it happening right now? Inflation.
Conflict. Oh,
No,
inflation. Mm.
inflation. So I feel like we have inflation right now because um the profit margins aren't, we're not growing anymore. We don't have anything new anymore. We like have lost the evolution of it. So then because all capitalism wants is growth,
Hmm.
and that's money.
Hmm.
Well, we don't have that anymore. So now they're going to create a false like infrastructure where they are just going to raise the prices on things. I mean,
Right.
look at McDonald's right now. Or Taco Bell. Taco Bell's a great one. Taco Bell didn't do anything fucking new, but it went from like, hey, I can get a burrito and a soda for $6 or, $3. Um, and now it's $12. You know,
Jesus.
you go to Taco Bell and you legit spend for two people $30. And you're like, for what? This was my drunken night at 3 o'clock in the morning. And we got some beans and we sobered up. Like it was good. It was top of the food chain at that point, right? But like now they haven't done anything to change the quality. They didn't change the logo. They didn't even bother changing the restaurants. And they were like, hey, we're just gonna up the prices.
Yeah.
And McDonald's is no different. McDonald's is doing the exact same thing where like um instead of like what we used to order at like $12, which was a McDouble, two McDoubles, a fry, and a Coke, or a Sprite. And it went from being 1256 to 1820 something, right? Like
Yeah.
in just like that. And nothing had changed. There was no new like marketing, there was no brainwashing, there was no nothing. They literally just upped the price that much. And I was like, for what?
Mm-hmm.
So these are the things that we really are where we're seeing what's going to hurt, I guess, some people is when you don't feed into the egregore, it's dying. And when it's dying, it's its most vulnerable place. And it's going to fight, kick, and scream before it ends up not being there because it needs to be seen, it needs to be noticed, right? To get the
Yep.
energy that it needs.
Yep.
Wow, that was a long TED talk.
It was good though. It was really good. You explained it very, very well because that's it. That's exactly, especially bringing in the generations, that's exactly what's happening. I agree so much. And then whatever the generation is below millennial, because I'm millennial, and whatever the one is under that, I feel like we went from Gen X being one extreme side, now millennials the other extreme side, and the next generation's coming in kind of in the middle, still figuring it out, sometimes
Mhm,
swaying a little bit
mhm.
left or right, but it feels like they're not so set in one way or the other like Gen X and millennials are, where we are very set on opposite ends. Even, boomers are even a further set end than the two of us, and it's like it's
Right,
very interesting when you start noticing these things and paying attention to them, how big of difference it is. It's that pendulum swing we talk about all the time, right? We were
right,
like,
right,
we went from here, well, boomers went from here to here, which was Gen X, and they were still kind of on the same side, so it wasn't too big of a swing. So it was still pulled back over this way, and then it got pulled all the way back over here. Where millennials are like, no, we're not doing none of that. Literally nothing you guys
yeah,
did, we're doing. And
yeah,
now we got
yeah.
the next generation, which is what, Z, I
Z, I
think.
think,
And Z and the one underneath that, where these kids are coming
which
in
is
and they're like,
alpha, I
I think it
think.
is alpha.
Yeah,
They're coming in and they're somewhere more towards the middle. We see it, I
right,
see it all the
right.
time in Trinity,
Mm-hmm,
all the time
mm-hmm,
in her, where it's
mm-hmm.
like things she does because she's learned from both sides of the coin from Gen X and Millennial. She sees
Right,
it and then she gets to decide what's the best between the two instead of like having only this one-sided view that she can only go against with green or go with it
right,
in.
right. Because that's the whole thing is Trinity, um, she's been raised by boomers, formed by Generation X, and then incorporating her own generation, well, and millennials as well, and then forms her own in Generation Z. So if we think about that as being an egregore, so that's all of it, right? At least
Yeah,
to some temperature, right?
yeah,
So um this is the fruit of, well, I guess I say Generation X because like that's where she came from. She came from me, which is Generation X. So like this is the fruit of our now, and I get that there's differences in all sorts of realm and shapes and all that kind of stuff. Um, what's hard is to see the formation of the parenting where we have gotten to the point of where we think that pain is no longer useful. And this is where we're going to go down a really tricky um, path because what we're going to see in the future, and we've already started seeing it a little bit as these people that can't go outside because nobody's doing anything for them because they've never learned how to withdraw pain. We have now demonized pain and think it has no usefulness, and now, or pressure, and now, or uncomfortability. Nobody wants to be uncomfortable. And I'm
mhm,
telling you what, that the only way you're going to fucking grow is if you're uncomfortable.
mhm,
So we're going to see people being 35 living in their parents' house still, not doing anything, not
yeah,
producing anything because somebody has done everything for this person.
Mhm.
And it's like at some point you're going to wake up and realize that you've done nothing with your fucking life and you're going to be 50. And the hard part about that is that we're going to blame it on everybody else but ourselves,
Right.
right? And I'm even part of this. Like, it's that whole thing of like the illusion of like somebody is going to come and save me.
Mhm.
And it like that night, the Disney part where the knight in shining armor is going to rescue and me as a damsel in distress, and that's not happening either.
Right.
And this is the hard part about egregores is you don't know that you're being controlled by them until it's too late. You're
Yeah.
feeding this delusion because, we like it. It's good. It's that kind of thing. Um, there was something that I had along delusion.
Delusion.
It is the fantasy that people are after, not the truth. And that is something that I was like, ooh.
Mhm.
I like same.
Yeah, egregores can create a big illusion or fantasy, great word,
Hmm.
that you believe in. But
Hmm.
because you believe in it and you want to keep living like that, it feeds them.
Absolutely. This is the same thing with like victimism. Like that is a total like you want to see the perspective on your side. You're projecting these false narratives. You're like, I'm going to be a victim to this because you did this to me and it's all your fault when you created the entire thing yourself. But we
Yeah.
don't see that. I mean, and even the time that I think that I am like, aha, I remember that I'm the fool and I am delusional because there's no way that I'm not in some aspect a fool and delusional.
Well, this goes along with too, like how egregores can have positive impacts on our lives. They can also have that dark side, right? And a good example of that that goes along with what we're talking about is like how it can negatively impact our mental health and well-being. And the example that I found that I really enjoyed because it is so true is the egregore that's centered around body image. Body image
Hmm.
has been a thing for decades, and every decade changes. And you can see it when they talk about the history of
Yeah.
body shape and body image. There is always a perpetuated, unrealistic beauty standard that leads us to this super low self-esteem where we're so dissatisfied with our bodies and we hate ourselves and we hate our bodies because we're feeding into the illusion from the egregore of body dysmorphia that we are not up to beauty standards.
Well, and this is goes with the marketing ploy, right? Like if I tell you that you are lacking, you will come buy my stuff. You'll
Mm-hmm.
buy my lip gloss. Like think about just what's in your makeup bag, how much you have spent in just and not your like artistic makeup
Oh
bag,
no,
just
no,
just your
no offense
personal
taken.
makeup bag.
You're
Yeah.
right. I do it too. I do it because I
Hmm.
don't like my face without my eyebrows on.
Right, same. I was just thinking about getting the tattooing because I was like I saw myself without eyebrows because I didn't have any makeup on. And because when I put my eyebrows on, they're way darker. The contrast between my eyebrows and the eyebrows that I have were like, oh, I don't have any face. I have no definition in my face. And now I
Yep.
don't look good. And now nobody will talk to me. And now I won't be loved. And now I won't be accomplished. And everybody forget me and I'll die alone in my house. You know what I mean? Like it's that whole like,
Yes. Now, and there can be a positive side to that too, where it's like you get out of the dissolution of like, holy shit, this doesn't matter for anybody else. Like it can get to a point where you're like, eyebrows is a great example, right? Because that's not too personal. It's personal to us, but not too personal. Of like, you know what? I am gonna get my eyebrows tattooed because I don't give a shit what anybody else thinks. I care for myself. I like the way I look. I feel really good when I do that, and that's what I want to do for myself. It's not this like whole you just toilet draining of you feeling like crap about yourself because you feel inadequate to beauty standards. It can be something beautiful, it can be something bad. And that's like when we're talking about how egregores are neither good nor bad, it's all about you and yourself. and how you
Yes,
work with them, right?
absolutely. Trends are a very flash in the pan kind of egregores that are trying to sustain life. Um, but like you you get lost in this, like, if I'm a good person, I need extensions, I need lip fillers, I need Botox, I need my nails done, I need um or I'm not a good girl.
Yeah, I'm ugly.
Like, right, right. I'm ugly, I'm unattainable, I will never marry, I will never find a husband, and I will die alone. You know what I mean? Like
Yep, yep.
it's literally that's what they're telling us without telling us. That's the influence that we get. And unless you're strong mind or have a stronger will, uh you won't you won't deviate from that path. You'll go and make the appointment for and if you do it, it's not like I'm telling you that it's wrong. I'm just telling you to look at why you're doing it.
It's
That's it. That's
yes,
it.
it's the why
You
behind
know,
it. Are
because
you
like clearly, like I have all the tattoos. Like I'm not on against body
uh,
morphification.
modification? There you go.
You know, whatever. I make
Yes,
up my own words.
morphification. I like that.
Morphification. Um, but look at why you're doing it. Like when I started doing this made me feel cool. So then it gave me a sense of security and more confidence in it instead of it being like I just want to do it because it's fun or I'm working on my trauma,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So but of course, like me being unconscious when I started it compared to me being now of like almost body filled of like ink. And I'm like, oh yeah, I got some trauma. You know, like
Yeah.
it's the influence of like, oh yeah, I'm totally doing it this way. And even like further down the line as I grow and as I expand, I will probably have a deeper understanding of why I did it and where it's coming from and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I feel like as that consciousness starts coming in, that critical thinking about like why you're doing the things you're doing, you can start appreciating it more. Like sometimes I look at my body, I have some big tattoos that have big meanings that I got because I wanted a cover up of one I got with my ex-fiance, like had a big
Mm-hmm.
meaning, got to cover it up again
Mm-hmm.
by a partner. Had a big meaning. It was to have a whole tattoo just that's like 3 layers worth of trauma. Now I can
Right,
look at
right.
it and I'm like, wow, that's like kind of cool that I have this form of this art form that reminds me of the things I've been through and where I've come from. It's like you
Mm-hmm.
can start to appreciate the things so it can change, right? It's that critical thinking of like going through those trauma things. And you're right, it could form into something more as you keep growing and getting older and like gaining more knowledge. But this goes back to the example I was telling you about earlier, too, of how egregores are like a genie in a bottle. Okay, think of it like that. It can be something that's so innocent until you pick it up and you don't know what you're doing. You're just wishing for things and then you regret the things you wish.
Mm-hmm.
Or it can be great. You've actually thought about this, you think it through and you wish for something, and then it's the most beautiful thing you've ever done for yourself and others.
Mm-hmm. The problem is with all that power is it becomes corrupt at some point. And they were talking about in the book about how in the Rosicrucian, I'm saying it wrong, but we're gonna go with it. Um, they would put their egregores or their thought forms to rest like a normal person
Mm,
instead of keeping them up and keeping them going because I do believe that you have to be careful because there's always a buildup and then a destruction.
yeah.
And I think that's what we really got to be careful of is that we start off. Remember the whole saying of like the road is paved with good intentions, like the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yep.
And that's what we got to be careful with is because the temptation of power is it becomes toxic at sometimes and it feeds the ego. So even like we have to be careful of like again, you have to go back of like, why am I doing this? And it could be because I'm doing it for my own ego. I don't, but it's unbeknownst to me at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like once you start recognizing the potential negative impact that certain egregores could have on your well-being, you can start taking steps to protect yourself and promote healthier patterns within yourself and really choose what's best for you. But like
Mm-hmm.
without looking at that, you could fall into something and not even realize what you're doing to yourself or why you're doing it to
Because
yourself.
it's subtle.
Uh-huh. A lot
It's
of these egregores have been around for fucking centuries, man.
mm-hmm.
Centuries. They're really good at their job.
Right. Well, and even like, sometimes you want to use um we thought they were good. I think when we started out, at least what from my perspective, it's like I was very naive and I thought everything was good in it. And now that I've grown up a little bit, I kind of see it as like I'm questioning myself, was it always like I don't think everything was always bad and I didn't see it. And maybe that's part of it. But like as we've grown up and as these things have matured, they've soured almost
Mhm.
because they've gotten a taste of energy or food or this feeding that it's almost like it's become into like an alcoholic
Yeah,
or that kind of thing where
yeah.
they just need more
It's like an
and they're now
addiction.
taking it from you instead of asking you for it, and
Yeah,
that's where it's gets corrupt and toxic.
yeah, absolutely. Um, I have some ways to free yourself from the influence like that if you'd like to hear the ones that I got.
Absolutely.
Um, the first one, it sounds way simpler than it is, but we're gonna talk about it. It's know thyself. Love them boys, but know thyself. It's the understanding who you are and what your needs are and what drives you, what makes you tick, like what you want, what you don't want, what feels good, what
Mm-hmm.
doesn't. Now,
Mm-hmm.
granted, like we always say, nothing's written in stone, so that can change. It can change in seconds. It can change with one conversation, you know? But knowing that about yourself is what's going to help you break free from an influence of a egregore. Because the moment that you're like, this does not feel good, I do not want to be a part of this, bye, you're out of there. We've talked
Well,
about
and this
the,
is why you should question everything, right? You gotta question it. Why do I feel this way? Why am I doing this? What did I
Mhm.
do that for? And, you'll know the more you question, the more it'll come clear to you.
That questioning is my next one that was called critical thinking. We
Mm-hmm.
have to be willing to examine and challenge our assumptions and our biases. When you don't, you get stuck, man.
Mm-hmm.
You can't swim forward because again, you're just getting pushed around. You have no strength to swim forward. You're not even looking at what's pushing you. You're not looking at any of it. You're not questioning it. You got to have critical thinking. You got to activate those skills that you already know you have because we all do
Mm-hmm.
it all the time. We overthink all the fucking time. It's just directing that overthinking into something productive.
Right. And that being so, and we don't create thought forms all the time because none of us focus on one thing for a period of time. It's and especially with the rise of ADHD, we're like squirrel and we make fun of it, but like you can't productively create anything because you're not focusing on one thing, right? It's
Absolutely.
so hard to like, reading is hard because you can't focus on one thing. You have to like you're like, oh, I'm over here and over there, da da da. So and it's this breaking down of actually being able to manifest in the world and create stuff in the world. And I think that's what we're really in the future is going to really have a hard time doing. And um, I think that's why the generation above us has not left this planet yet.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean it more
Uh,
like a thought or
y-
I don't mean like I want people
no,
to die.
I knew what you meant, but I had not thought about that. You just get it.
Mhm.
I was thinking. That's why I was like, yeah, okay. Like I'm still thinking about that. Like, yeah, it's a very big thought.
Mhm.
Um, the next one I have is understanding your patterns. So catching yourself in those moments when you're behaving in a certain way and recognizing what you're doing. Now, I will say in thinking about egregores, something big that keeps popping in my head, and you guys have heard it all before, and I'm gonna say it again. I'm gonna say it again. The
Say
four
it, say it.
agreements. The four agreements, I think, is huge in this, right? Because when you're being impeccable with your word, you're catching yourself. When you're not making assumptions, you're catching yourself. When you're doing your best, you're catching yourself. It's constant critical thinking about how you're being. It's constantly watching your patterns and understanding what you're doing and why you're doing it. If you're catching yourself, like being impeccable with your word, when we talked about that in the four agreements, which I implore you to go and listen to if you have not, there was a big part in that about spells and about gossip and about things like that. When you engage in gossip constantly, you're putting spells on people and yourself. You're agreeing to these shitty things that when you realize what you're doing, you're like, fuck, I don't want to be agreeing to that. I don't want to be in a spell like that. I don't want to be doing this. It's understanding that you have that pattern about yourself, catching yourself in those moments, and then recognizing it, being like, holy
Mhm.
shit, I'm caught in this. That's the same
Right.
way with like egregores. Once you catch the patterns of you doing something that you don't feel good doing, you can start to get away from it.
Right, right. And it's hard because like we do, that's how we connect in a society a lot of the times is talking about somebody, talking about, and we even do it freely when we talk about, we don't feel bad or prohibited to do it when we talk about celebrities and stuff. It's almost like we have a right to do it just because we don't know them.
Mhm.
Like they did this and they did that, and I would never do that, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, we don't know. First of all, we don't even know if this is true.
Yeah.
And then so we're just idly talking. We're not doing anything. It's like garbage.
Yeah. It's like eating garbage.
Yeah.
Next one I have is challenge your impulses. When you find yourself making a decision or taking an action, take a step back and ask, why am I doing this?
Hmm.
Like randomly buying stuff just because all of a sudden you have the impulse to buy something.
Because that's the spell that's on the item, right? That's the spell that's like literally like, oh my God, I must have this. And it's because that they made it that way. They put the intentions in the marketing. They were like, we will make you buy this. The biggest one is water. We buy water all the coffee. Coffee used to be
Yeah.
$1 or 15 cents. You would walk into a diner, you would buy coffee, right?
Yep.
I now buy coffee at
And
$7.85.
that's the
And
cheap coffee.
that's the cheap coffee.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it doesn't even have fucking alcohol in it. Do you know what I mean? Like I was like,
Yeah, at that
but
point
I
you're
still
paying
do
Starbucks
it.
prices, baby. You want alcohol?
Right. Right.
Starbucks prices.
It's 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 amazing how we like wake up one day and it's like literally can get coffee at my house for free because I can brew it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, at this point we're like, oh, let me go through. And you could see it as like I remember being in like a very interesting place of the world, which was Vegas. And I was standing in the middle of a street and I turned this way, and on this corner there was a Starbucks. And I turned this way, and on this corner there was a Starbucks. I was standing in between two Starbuckses.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I think I've looked this up before, actually.
It was mind-blowing.
Just on the strip, the main strip, how many
Yep.
Starbucks do you think there are?
Oh, the main strip. Um,
Not the old one, the new
15.
one. How about 50?
Stop it.
I looked this up before
Stop
because I
it.
remember thinking that because I've been there twice now, and every time I go, I'm always like, another one, and another one, and another one. And I looked it up before because I was like, how many freaking Starbucks does one place need? Like, it's not that big. It's
That's
big, but it's
how,
not like,
but
it's
that's
not,
how powerful that egregore is, that you will walk
yes.
a block and have to get another one.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I got a coffee, but now I need a refresher. Yes, I got a refresher. Now I need a frappuccino, whatever, a frappy drink. Yes, I got this, but now I need this. You know what I mean? Like, oh, and now I'm hungry. So now I'm gonna go get a sandwich.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And when you start realizing the influence you have, man, that's when you can start like, that's coffee's a great example of challenging your impulses. Are you doing this because you need it? Or are you doing this because you feel like you have to have it? Like you have no choice to get but to get it. Because if you didn't get coffee today, you're not gonna make it. And it's not because you actually do need it. It's because of the egregore telling you you didn't
It's
get
the
me today.
siren.
You're not gonna be good today. You're not
They
gonna
have
feel
a
okay.
siren,
A
right?
siren's call, yes.
Yeah, it's the siren's call. They have the mermaid on there with the two tails, which I'm pretty sure means something else, but like it's a siren of some sort.
Dude, yes.
Yeah,
Uh,
because and then we even they give us the proper coding in our brains so we can tell our brains like, no, I should save that money because I really want to buy a car. Instead, I well, I've worked really hard, so I'm going to treat myself. Or, I don't feel good. This is going to give me a pick me up and I'm going to feel better. Or like they give us the proper like codes to like unlock our boundaries
mhm.
so that we give them more money or more
Yes.
energy or more, you know what I mean? Like they don't have enough of it. So that's what we're trading. Realize that you are trading your essence for coffee or for whatever it is.
Yep.
And I'm not saying it's bad or good. I'm just opening your eyes and you probably hate me for it, but it's fine.
That's fine. Uh, well, this goes along with our next one anyways.
Mhm.
Seeking out diverse perspectives and experiences. Now, what this is going to do that's going to help you get away from it is it's going to help you engage in you want to engage in open and respectful dialogue first with others. And what it's going to do is it's going to expose you to different viewpoints and ways of thinking so that you can broaden your understanding and gain a more like refined, nuanced, and inclusive perspective.
Mhm.
Could see it all the time. Like, I'm somebody who I try to see both sides with, especially when it comes to politics. Politics is the easiest one to call out here because it's like the one where most people get the most like intense about their feelings about politics.
Mhm.
I try to hear both sides because, again, we've talked about this multiple times throughout the almost 2 years we've been running the podcast, man. Is like getting both sides gives me a better viewpoint. Either I'm going to agree with something, or I'm going to disagree with something, or I'm not going to even know what the hell you're talking about. And I need to go and look it up more because I really don't know one way or the other.
Mhm.
You're getting this bigger concept to where now I can include you who wants to talk about Republican, you who wants to talk about Democrat, you who wants to talk about liberalism or whatever,
Well,
like all these different viewpoints.
we lost the art of debate is really where it's come down to. And critical thinking. And um when you are curious instead of being insecure about your choice, if you're going to fight with somebody about whether it's Republican or party or Democrat party, it doesn't matter because like they both do it. And the only way that you are confident in the choice that you pick is that because you know it all, right? You've looked at this side of the matter and you looked at that side of the matter and you've come to a conclusion because you did the work that you were supposed to do to come to that conclusion, right? Nobody does that. Nobody does that anymore and there's a lot of reasons, right? We're busy, we're tired, all of that stuff, distracted, all of that stuff. So what we do is we get these ideas and we're like, no, bad this and good this. And that's all. We're like caveman at this point because we didn't do any of the knowledge part of it. And we're like, oh, I'm going to vote for this because my mom, my celebrity, my whatever told me that this was good and I trust their opinion. But that's all we know. It's a superficial choice because
Mhm.
there's no depth to it. So when somebody challenges us, not only are we insecure about the choice we made, and we're also upset because if you choose something that goes against my belief, then that automatically makes me wrong. And I don't like that feeling. So then I tell you that you're wrong
Yes. What
when
that,
neither one of them matter.
yeah, and what that does is it just you're not being inclusive from another person's perspective. You're not giving respect, and then on top of it, you're not gaining a more refined view because you're
No.
closed. So, like, you're basically coming to somebody with a crystal and being like, hey, this is my crystal. This is what I found. And they're like, oh, well, that looks rough around the edges, and I don't think that looks right. And you're like, no, it's perfect. When actually it's sharp as shit, it's actually cutting your hand and you don't know it's doing it. It's a really
Hmm.
shitty way of, like, I guess, explaining it, but this goes along with more than just politics. Politics is just obviously the easiest one to freaking talk about because
Hmm.
there's so many who
Well,
about
and
it.
everybody understands it. It's a really good
Yes.
one to bring up without putting all the trigger points out there, but it's a really
Yes.
good one to bring up because and they do have their own egregores as well. Like
Oh,
they've got
yeah.
this side and they've got this side. And um it's a really good thing to bring up because we can see the fact we've all been there where like abortion is very good about doing that, right? So like if you're for it, if you're against it, it doesn't matter. It's the point is that you're fighting and you're distracted.
Hmm.
You know,
You're
when
giving your
really
energy.
absolutely. And it's dividing people and they're not becoming more of a community. We're becoming more separated. And then we have no power because we are all individuals.
Yep.
When really, if we stood together, we would really rock some shit up, right?
Right. Yep.
But
Okay.
yeah, so when you go
Sorry, I
forward,
need a breath.
right, I know. I was like, when you go forward and you know, if somebody challenges your views and you feel upset about it, take a breath, let them, and go look at some research on it, what they said.
Hmm.
Because you're not, you don't have to take it personally that they don't think, like you do.
Right.
It doesn't make you wrong and it doesn't make them wrong.
Right.
Because if you really think about it, everybody thinks they're doing the best they can with what they've got. Right? So the Republicans think that this is the best way to go forward. The Democrats think that this is the best way to go forward. So that means neither party is evil. It's just a different, really, we're supposed to work together, but because that's why there's the balance of it. You need this side and this side so that you could have a middle section, right?
Right.
That's really what it's supposed to be, how it's supposed to work. And
Right.
we've gotten lost with that. But you really have to, you need to know the left side so you can know the right side better. You need to know the devil so that way you know heaven better.
Yeah.
That's the way that's supposed to go. So, because I can tell you one thing is that yelling at people is never going to fucking change their mind.
Yeah, and throwing insults. That's a hard thing right now. You know what? Never mind. I'm gonna get too into politics. So the hard thing for me right now is, like, we're not seeking out these perspectives, right? These different perspectives. Instead, we're throwing insults out. It's hard to watch right
Right,
now in like
right.
big
It
political
is.
movements, is watching like the
Mm-hmm.
Senate. I love watching this stuff because I find it fascinating what they're bringing up or what's getting brought up into the Senate. And sometimes watching these insults get thrown back and forth between parties, I'm like, shit, geez, come on, man. I'm just here for the information. You guys are supposed to be pulling the
Right,
information out and looking at it and analyzing it. Yeah,
right.
I don't even know why we're here anymore. Anyways, you got to keep these an open mind, an open
It
heart. You got to understand people to know why you feel the way you feel.
absolutely. And you gotta go above the insults and stuff like that because it just doesn't, if you don't pay attention, that's when shit gets passed that we don't understand.
Yeah,
How did we get
absolutely.
into this place? Because I'm pretty sure that abolishment of the abortion thing was right there and we didn't see it. I bet if we went back and studied the history of it, it would have been right there. And maybe we would have caught it. Maybe we couldn't because I don't understand it completely, clearly. But maybe we could have caught it. Maybe, whatever. But, it's those things that there's a lot of distraction in the world. And when they're distracting you like that, when everybody is looking this way, they're doing something this way.
Yep, and both ways look like shit sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, my last way to free yourself from an influence of an egregore is going to be to spend time in nature. Nature can be an extremely good grounding antidote from an egregore. Getting away from your phone, getting away from social media, just being out in nature.
Hmm.
It's a universal grounding tool.
Absolutely.
Go
Yep.
to the ocean. Tell me you don't feel better, dog.
Right. Go walk in the forest. Tell me that you don't feel good hugging that tree.
Yeah, dude, listening to the
Hmm.
birds and then the grass. It's great. It's comfy. Sitting out in the sun. Nothing feels better. So basically breaking free from the influence of agriculture requires a lot of a conscious effort and willingness to question and challenge dominant narratives and the beliefs that shape our lives, right? And it's important to acknowledge the role that egregores play in shaping our experiences. And by understanding and working with egregores, you can create a more inclusive, more compassionate, and more just society because we know what we're working with.
Well, and this is the thing is that everybody wants to work on everybody out. Like, I want to call you out and be like, you need to do this and you need to be a better person and you need to like pick up trash and you need to do community service and blah, blah, blah. And we're not working on ourselves. If your outward life does not look like what you wanted to, you fucking created it. So it's a hard road to look at, but like this is the one thing that you got to do is you got to figure out what you're doing to service all this. If this is
Mhm.
your kingdom, what are you doing to bringing all this in? Why is it serving you?
Yep.
Don't think about it bad or good. That's not the point. The point is that it's servicing you in some way.
Yeah, I just thought you just made me think of another good example too of an egregore that I like and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I need to put a boundary up and give myself a break. It's the egregore alcohol. Sometimes the egregore and alcohol and I are friends and we enjoy each other's company a lot. Sometimes I'm like, I think I might be a little bit addicted to you right now and your influence. I'm going to take a break because I need to give myself that break.
Right, right. Yeah, because it helps, like, you can get overwhelmed with it and it takes too much.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And alcohol's an easy one.
A super easy one. Yeah.
Hmm.
Like it's neither good nor bad. It's all about you as an individual.
It's a tool on how you use it, right?
Yep. You got anything else for us, buddy? Was there
No,
some
I
more
think
points?
I'm done. I did look over here and I think that Mark Stavis has another book. No, I think that's the same one. But look him up. He'll have more, or even look up egregores and how to free yourself and do some research on like to get a better understanding of it because like this was just one perspective of like a thing that has no boundaries and doesn't have like a meat suit, and we can't like put the words out there to form exactly what it is anyway. So I hope this helps for people to just kind of like rest around and wake up a little bit and see the influences that are directing you and your life, and hopefully it brings you back to yourself.
Here, here. Beautifully said. Um, I'm not sure what we're gonna have for you next week. We're gonna figure it out and we will let you guys know.
Did we not? I know we had
Yeah, we're
something.
gonna have to talk about it though.
Oh,
Yeah. Alrighty, peeps. Well, we'll see you in the next episode. And it's gonna be a
bye.
surprise.